Previously on 24.
After a warm reception at the Icelandic box office, LazyTown had started to become a household name, and Sportacus was the child icon that Magnus had set out to create. So, just like any successful concept, a sequel was put into the works. But how could you write a sequel to such a perfect predecessor? You wouldn't just need a new story, you would need some sort of conflict that would shatter the world of LazyTown as we know it. With such a clean shared, backflipping hero at the helms, we would need a menacing and maniacal counterfeit to Sportacus's angelic person. We would need a Joker to Sportacus's Batman, a Ying to Sportacus's Yang, an O.J. Simpson to Sportacus's Nicole Blah. Hell. If you haven't guessed already, let me introduce you to a man named Glanny Gleiper, or as you may know him as...
Robbie Rotten! Who did you expect? Sport a flop?
Robbie Rotten in LazyTown is the sequel and honestly the superior alternative to the first play. Everything from the outfits, the set design, the music, the characters, everything about this sequel is a complete upgrade from the first play. But, to be honest, that's not really saying much. So, we start off a little while after the first play ends, with the town leading healthy lifestyles and, as a community, beginning to grow their own food. Sportacus, with his job now complete, must move on to the next town in trouble. However, he promises to be back right in time for the town's next sports festival. Little does he know that an evil presence lurks within the shadows of LazyTown. And let me tell you, evil has never looked so good. After recently escaping from prison, Master of Disguise, Robbie Rotten, makes his way to LazyTown to wreak havoc, disguising himself as the ever so fabulous Richie Rich. I think it goes without saying, Robbie steals the show. He steals the entire show. He is just full of the exaggerated swagger of a professional Icelandic criminal, and it can all be credited to the performance of the late, great Stefan Karl Stephenson. From the second he appears on screen, you can see that his entire heart and soul has been poured into that role. He didn't just play Robbie Rotten, he became Robbie Rotten, and his contribution to the series will be dearly missed. So, Richie Rich strolls into town, and everyone is starstruck by his wealth and flashy clothes. The police officer kinda just looks at him like, "Hey, you look a bit like that Robbie Rotten." To which Richie says, "Nah, I don't, mate." And then everyone says, "Alright then, sound." Now the story hasn't really changed much between this play and the first play, and that's because it's the exact same story, but in reverse. The interesting thing about this plot though, is Robbie's ulterior motive. His motive in the TV series is to show that Sportacus is a bit of a dickhead, and he wants people to know this by showing that being lazy is twice as fun. I mean, come on, they live in f***ing LazyTown, don't blame the guy for trying. However, in this play, his plan seems a little more corporate. After seeing that the town has started to grow their own crops, Robbie plans to trick them into believing that his processed foods are much more healthier and much more tastier than anything they can grow in their own garden. Honestly, correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't watched as much as the show as I'd like to believe, but I don't remember there being any subplots or storylines centering on processed foods being the devil, and that you should only buy foods that have been freshly prepared. It was a big plot point in the first play, and it's even more prominent in the second one. So I'm just confused why the series seemed to shy away from such a strong ideal set. Now, I was going to make a joke about Magnus selling out to the corporate bigwigs, meaning that he had to alter his motives to be able to sell LazyTown products, but I couldn't. Magnus stood true to his word. Even though LazyTown products have seemed to have flooded the market with cheap toys, fancy dress, and poorly designed board games, when it comes to the grocery department, the series has only seemed to have endorsed healthier alternatives to products that enforce a rounded diet. Bread, yogurts, smoothies, water, they're all products that agree to fulfill the promise of the brand's values and give the message that positive choices can be fun. So yeah, 1-0 to Magnus. I'll try to be funnier next time, alright mate? So after unsuccessfully trying to persuade the town to convert to his tinned muck, he decides to play dirty, sabotaging the town's crops with the help of his cronies, the Mayhem Town Gang. Now, please forgive me, but this is where I started to get a bit fed up. But please, do hear me out on this one for a sec. I don't think personally that the LazyTown concept is something that should stretch over 20 minutes. Even though it's entertaining, and believe me, it's definitely entertaining. A 90-minute runtime far overstretches its welcome. The music's nice and the acting's over the top, but there's only so much you can take before you realise that you're basically just watching a glorified pantomime on acid. But if you think about it, that's probably why the TV show has such a wide appeal. Like, for example, the plot of this play can be easily condensed into a 24-minute episode of the show, meaning that out of the 95 minutes that the play runs for, there's at least 71 minutes that just feel like you're being dragged along. Kind of like when your mum took you to the shop as a kid and she said to you could pick one packet of sweets to take home with you. But before she would take you to the sweet aisle, she would drag you through the toilet paper aisle, the cleaning supplies aisle, the frozen vegetables aisle. The same can be said for the first play, but I think the problem can be mainly pinned down on the pacing, as the character interactions and gags seem extremely sluggish compared to the almost non-stop mayhem that the series conveys. But, to be fair, that could just come down to them both being stage plays, and not a heavily edited TV show. So, very quickly, I'm going to try and summarise, again, the rest of the stage play as efficiently and non-offensively as I can. After Robbie and the gang destroy the crops, the town blames Trixie and throws her in jail, which is kind of bittersweet because she didn't really do it, but she's a bit of a bitch. Sporticus decides to pop in and decides to have a kick-off as well, because everyone's lazy again, but then he just gets off for no particular reason. After Sporticus motivates everyone to start growing crops again, Robbie poisons them with the suds, and the town blames Stephanie, because if you learn anything from this play, it's that all women are criminals. The town votes Richie as the new mayor, leaving the old mayor to get sad, sing a song, and then run away. Robbie reveals his evil plan to sell powdered supplements, which, I'm not gonna lie, kinda look like tasty sponges. Stephanie and Trixie team up to escape the jail, only to be captured by Robbie as soon as they escape. And then, when all hope is lost, Sporticus comes in and kicks some ass to save the day, which kinda makes you think that if he didn't get off in the first place, this whole situation could have been avoided. Well, that's it. That's Robbie Rotten in LazyTown. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, partly. Will I ever watch it again? Pff, God no. It's definitely an interesting watch, especially for anyone who admired the show growing up. The charm's all there, but the execution is just unapologetically mind-numbing. I mean, sure, if I was an Icelandic kid in the 90s, I'd love this, but I'm not. Well, at least I think I'm not. At the end of the day, it set out to do one thing: be different enough to warrant calling itself a sequel. And you know what? That's just what it did. And it did put forward a very good question. It can't get much weirder than this.